Episode 10.
There are so many amazing places to fish, it's doubtful any of us fishing junkies will ever be able to hit them all, but we can certainly do the next best thing, experience them through the eyes of fellow avid anglers who share their most epic adventures with us. Sign up to be our guest on the show today at www.tell.fish/guest.
Welcome to the Telltale Fisherman podcast, where avid anglers share the story of their best fishing day ever to inspire yours. Now it's time for another epic adventure. So here's your host, John Woodson.
Well, welcome to the show. Today's guest is Captain John Coufal. Captain John, welcome.
Hey, thank you, John. Thank you very much.
Well, it's great to have you here, and you're going to have to help me with this now. You have a charter business. How do you pronounce the name of it?
You pronounce it Hana Pa'a. It means it's a Polynesian Hawaiian term, but that means fish on.
Okay. Well, how did you come by that? Do you did you spend some time in Hawaii or?
My wife and I lived in Hawaii for 4 years. So we got to do a lot of charter fishing over there. And my very first fishing trip over there, the captain told us, he said, hey, if you catch a fish, he says, you need to make sure that you yell Hana Pa'a, so we all know you got a fish on. So.
Wow. Boy, I bet you had some amazing experiences out there for 4 years fishing.
Yes, we did. We had an awesome time.
That is excellent. So yeah, that's one place I'd love to visit. That's on my bucket list. Well, so tell us a little about your charter business. It's a little different than most, I understand.
Our charter business is a little bit different. Yes, we have a Hana Pa'a Adventures that is a for-profit. So we like to get into the scallops, the sharks, the grouper. There's some awesome shallow water grouper fishing off of Hernando County. But our other piece is Hana Pa'a R&R Adventures, and we're directing that towards a nonprofit for veterans and their families, so we can get them out on the water, get them fishing, and get them in some recreational activities out on the water. So it's to me, and it's going to be no cost to our veterans and their families.
Wow, that's fantastic. Now you served as well, right?
Yes, sir. I served 20 years and retired in 2005, and my wife also served, and she did 22, and she retired in 2008.
In what branches did you serve in?
We served both in the Army.
Okay, wow. So that's amazing. And so how did you come up with the idea to do this charter for vets?
Well, one of the things that we kind of discovered going through the Veterans Administration after we retired was that there just didn't seem to be a whole lot of programs out there for the veterans to get out and just get out and do some recreational activities. We live down in Florida, which is the fishing capital of the world, and it just seems like there's not enough recreational guys out there who want to take veterans out. And of course, everybody wants to make money. I don't plan on making any money off this, but we want to get them out there because my wife and I find it extremely relaxing.
Mm-hmm.
And, we just want to make sure that our veterans have the same advantage that we do to get out and plus their families get out and go fishing, swimming, snorkeling, scalloping, whatever they want to do. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think I may have in the past seen one or two things where people were trying to get anglers fishing, but like you say, I really haven't seen that much that I'm aware of. And what a great thing! Just the power of the water, I think is very therapeutic. Is that what you find?
Oh, we find that every time we go out, you just come back kind of just in a different state of mind. Just you're extremely relaxed and. It opens up conversations as well. People like to talk when they're relaxed. People like to talk when there's not a whole lot of other people around. So one of our long-term goals is probably looking at doing some type of therapeutic group therapy out on the water of some sort. My current position now is I'm working on my master's degree in social work.
Okay.
So I want to get into the clinical side.
Yeah.
And so I think our long-term goal is to work with veterans and groups and get them out on a boat and maybe talk about some issues that maybe we can talk through. So that's kind of our long-term goal.
Wow, absolutely. That's pretty neat. I know you're going to do a lot of good for a lot of folks with that program. So we're excited
Thank
to
you.
help let people know about it. Well, tell me a little bit about you. I mean, we talked already about you have a lot of great experience fishing out in Hawaii, but how did you get your love for the outdoors and for fishing? Is that something you grew up with, or come later? Or
No, I can remember following my dad probably, gosh, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 years old, probably, following him to the fishing ponds and the bass ponds. I grew up in Kansas, so that, of course, we didn't have salt water, but
right?
we with the fresh water from all the pond hopping to the rivers, creeks, and streams. My gosh, I can trot lining, fishing for catfish in the middle of the night. I mean, catching crawdads. We used to seine crawdads and minnows, and we'd catch our own bait, and we just couldn't afford to go get our own, buy bait, so we'd seine them out of these little creeks, and man, we just loved to do the catfish and the bass fishing, white bass in Oklahoma. I mean, it was just, we did a lot of that as a kid, just growing up.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure you needed any better bait than that. That's pretty good stuff.
You bet, you couldn't beat it.
Yeah. So when did you make the switch to saltwater? Was it when you went to Hawaii or before that?
Well, yeah, we there wasn't a whole lot of freshwater in Hawaii, and of course, with the 20 years that we spent, we tried to fish as much as we possibly could, but there just wasn't a whole lot of time for it. So when we really got to Hawaii, I retired before we left, so I was kind of a retiree guy there in Hawaii, so that was kind of nice. So I had some time to do that, and then just fell in love with the deeper water, the bigger boats. It's just the saltwater itself is just something else, man. I absolutely love to do the saltwater fishing.
Oh yeah. Every time you go out, you just never know what you're going to see out there. That's one thing I love about it.
Absolutely, and it's my wife is from Tampa,
Okay.
and we decided we weren't going to live in Tampa, but we're going to live, close to the water. And if we're going to live close to the water, we're going to have a boat. So once we got the boat and got it out into out into the bay, I was like, there's got to be bigger places, and we found it in the Gulf of Mexico. So.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's almost a crime to live in Florida and not have a boat, isn't it?
Oh, it is. Absolutely. You got to have I don't care if it's a 14-footer. You got to have a boat and get in the water. So.
Yes, and we've got plenty of it. Do you do any freshwater fishing anymore, or just?
No, we're strictly saltwater right now.
Okay. Well, we got plenty of that too here. Well, when we get back, Captain John's going to tell us an epic story of saltwater fishing. Stay tuned.
If you fish for redfish in stained water or shallow areas with a lot of weeds, a weedless spoon is one of the best baits to use. In my experience, there is one saltwater spoon that is head and shoulders above the rest, and I've tried a bunch of them. Plus, most of my biggest speckled trout have also been caught on this very same spoon. Check it out at tell.fish/gear in your web browser.
Okay, we are back with Captain John, and he's now going to tell us a story of fishing. It was in the Gulf, right?
It was in the Gulf off of Pine Island in Hernando County.
Mm-hmm.
It was my wife and my wife and me. We just decided we'd just go out for a little while. We weren't going out very far. We actually saw some stingray, and believe it or not, there was cobia on top of it.
Oh, yeah.
When you see them, you gotta fling on them, and we didn't have anything, just some cut bait. I was like, well, if we're gonna throw something, we're gonna throw something at them. And man, as soon as it hit the water, at 42 incher, man, he took off, and my wife screaming and hollering, wanting to give me the pole, and I was, no, you caught it, you catch it, you're gonna keep it.
You got into this mess, huh? You got to get yourself out, right?
You got it. So she had a hard time with it, but man, I'm gonna tell you, she did a good job of bringing it in. And one of the best things I like about being the captain of my own boat is I get to watch people have a good time.
Oh yeah. Well, I've had a couple of occasions where we've been offshore and seen rays, and once or twice been able to catch cobia off them. It's really is an amazing thing. Talk a little bit about what it's like to see them out in the water and how you approach them and how all that works for people who haven't ever been able to do that kind of thing before.
Well, we were actually just kind of drifting over some small rock piles, just 5-6 miles offshore.
Mm-hmm.
And we were just kind of drifting around because we knew there was a whole lot of rock structure in this area, so we really didn't throw the anchor. And we would drift on along, and we what's neat about it is the water's extremely clear, and we're only in about 8 feet of water.
Mm-hmm.
So the water was so clear, and you could see these big rays coming, and as soon as you saw the rays, right on top of them, there was at least 3 cobia, if not more, and they are so pretty to see. But man, I'm gonna tell you, it's neat to be able to fling something at something you see before you even catch it. That to me, that's exciting.
Oh yeah, and well, me and a lot of other guys, all love the sight fishing. We have the red fishing here in Florida, bone fishing, all those kinds of things, and cobia
Right.
is certainly right up there with them. Um, so there were 3 cobia on this ray, huh?
There were 3 cobia on. I bet the stingray had to be at least 5, 6 feet wide. He was huge.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, they follow them stingrays, and they pick up all the crustaceans or whatever they kick up off the bottom. So that's neat to be able to do that.
Right, right. So talk to me about the fight. You toss a bait. So you just toss it out in front of the cobia, and one of them peels off and grabs it.
One of them peeled off, took off. Man, he was on it like fast as you could imagine. And to be honest with you, I wasn't really sure if the cobia turned on it or there was something else. Maybe sure because we have a lot of shark up here right now.
Mm-hmm.
But man, we got him closer to the boat after my wife fought him for about 20-25 minutes. Thank goodness we didn't have the anchor down because man, we'd have probably had a mess if he had gotten the anchor. So she probably went 20-25 minutes and worked up a pretty good sweat just kind of sitting there, and then all of a sudden it just kind of it was over. He gave up, and we got him to the boat and gaffy and put him on the deck. But once he hit that deck, man, he liked to come alive again, and you gotta be careful with him.
Yeah, people who haven't maybe caught them before, talk a little bit about the fish and some of the, shall we say, dangers that you have when you put one on the deck like that.
Yeah, when you pick them up and put them on a deck, of course they're going to. He went absolutely crazy, and of course we couldn't get the fish box open fast enough to get him in it. But
Right.
he went he went across the deck. He was port to starboard a couple of times, just going absolutely crazy. And you just got to be careful, and especially if you got people on there who don't have any experience and want to try to grab it. Probably just sometimes it's better off just to let him fish himself out, I guess, until you can get the fish box open and get him in it.
Right, and hope he doesn't break a bunch of things on your boat first.
Absolutely. Hopefully he doesn't break anything. And the worst thing I would think I would have is if we had somebody get hurt on the boat. I think would be the worst thing to happen. So
Yeah, and the thing with cobia is they have spines on their back too that
right.
that people may not know, if you haven't seen one before.
Right. And they'll hurt you. They'll hurt you if you're not paying attention. They will absolutely hurt you for sure.
Yeah, so a 42-inch cobia. Any idea what that guy would weigh?
I think he was around 26, 27 pounds, somewhere in there.
Yeah, that's a real beast. And so was it kind of one and done? The rays popped up.
One and done. He was once that one took off. We never saw him again. Now we've caught a few smaller cobia, but I've never got onto another group of cobia like that big. But one of the things we like to do up there too is the shallow water. We can see the rays extremely well in 3, 4, 5 feet of water, and there's always cobia out there too. So we like to try to target them. But man, they're elusive. They're fun to catch, but they're elusive.
Yeah, they are. So most of them that you see are much smaller than that on average, or just kind of average size, I guess.
Yeah, I think there's every once in a while you come across a keeper. Of course, you got to be 33 inches if I'm not
33
mistaken.
in Florida, yeah.
Yeah, so it's hard. They're fun to catch. Even the small ones are fun to catch. They put up one heck of a fight. So if we spot them, we're gonna try to catch them no matter what. But if they're not legal, we just leave them, let them go.
Wow, yeah, the cobias they're an amazing fish and pretty tasty too. I bet you had a lot of nice steaks off that one.
Oh, they're excellent. I love to eat cobia. I think cobia is better than grouper, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's an amazing fish. So is that your typical kind of fishing day where you go out and drift the rocks for cobia and snapper and not cobia, grouper and snapper and that kind of stuff? Or
yeah, we do a lot more bottom fishing. It's nice to have the bottom fishing where we're at. The shallow water group up here now is extremely hot. So I have another friend of mine who's a captain. My next door neighbor, him and his son went out this weekend and limited out in 8 feet of water. So
wow,
and that's pretty good for grouper up here. So the grouper population up here is very nice.
Wow.
Especially the shallow water grouper is fantastic. You don't need a big boat to go get them either.
Yeah, and and that's one thing about the Gulf of Mexico a lot of people may not appreciate is how shallow it is. Can you just tell people a little bit about that?
From where we go out of a Bayport and outer channel marker Bayport, depending on tide, anywhere from 8 to 10 feet. Rule of thumb for us out here, if you're headed straight west, you're going to drop a foot a mile every from where we go out of Bayport. So, if you go down a little bit farther south towards Arepica, things of that nature, you'll get in deeper water faster. But where we're at, we're kind of on a big shelf, and then you get into the first break about 12, 13 miles out, and then it'll drop off, and then you get to the second break, then you're out pretty far. You're out to 40 miles.
Yeah, so you've got to go a ways to get the pelagics and those kind of species over there,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, they are. And I've heard reports too that there's several schoolie dolphin out here. So I haven't seen them yet, but I've heard reports of people seeing them anyway.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I haven't seen them yet. So
Yeah, they're not so bad to eat either.
no, they're not. They're absolutely not.
Excellent. Well, yeah, an amazing cobia story is always good to hear. I don't think my personal best cobia is quite near that one. I've got them in the 30s, so I've got a little cobia envy from you there, or from your wife actually.
Yeah.
Hoping I can be fortunate enough to get one of those one day. But well, Captain John, I really appreciate you sharing that story with us. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Well, I appreciate you, John. Thank you very much for having us, and we're glad we'll be able to get the word out to what we're trying to do.
Absolutely. We will do all we can to let people know.
Don't forget to visit tell.fish/gear to get our recommendations on gear that will take your angling adventures to the next level and help make you the next Telltale Fisherman.
This has been the Telltale Fisherman podcast. Thanks for sharing another great tale with us. Be sure to check out the show notes page for more info on today's show and the gear we talked about. Keep those lines tight, and we'll catch you next time right here on the Telltale Fisherman podcast.